Now, this video has been per request. There was somebody who wanted to know what is the difference between soulless and a person that is just sleep. They are just sleep. Now, first of all, welcome to the channel of truth, enlightenment, freedom, and the channel of breaking empath free. If you are new, please like, share, and subscribe. And please, the video. Like the video, share the video, subscribe. For those that are returning subscribers, you're welcome back. And I always thank you for your love and support. Now, this video is going to be about soulless beings. Somebody wanted to know, these people, are they soulless or they just do not have a soul? Now, when you break through this illusion of everything you thought you knew about reality, you come to the realization of something you hear people talking about the veil. Okay, the veil. The veil is something like you have been covered in there was a veil over your face. You couldn't pretty much know what was happening. You didn't know what exactly was going on. You wake up, that veil is lifted. So now you're starting to realize there's a lot happening behind the scenes. It's a big shocker because now you don't know what to do, because you're seeing all these things, events and happening. You're seeing all these people. You don't know exactly what is happening, and you're not alone. You're also going to discover that there's a lot of spiritual activity that has always been going on behind the scenes. Now, in one of the things you will discover, you will see there is people, you will understand and understand that there is people that do not have a soul. When I say a person doesn't have a soul, I could mean a lot of things. This is a person, there's nothing in there. It's just an empty shell. There's no soul in there. Somewhere along their journey, they lost their soul. Maybe they sold their soul, or they just lost their souls, maybe unconsciously or consciously, but they do not have a soul. They are just completely blacked out. And this is going to be different for different individuals, because a person doesn't just lose their soul completely all of a sudden. This is something that happens bit by bit, okay? These demons keep on infiltrating different areas of your life, and they shut you down completely spiritually. Now, when they do shut you down completely spiritually, then they now overtake your body, and your body becomes a vessel that they're going to use for their activity, which we all know do all these evil things around the world, and of course, including getting energy or stealing energy. So a time comes when the person loses their soul completely. They have lost track of their life. They don't even remember who they are. Some of you guys who have probably could have dealt with narcissists, you have seen cases where they have, you've heard them saying they don't remember who they are, they don't know who they are, you know. Now, when you see a person that is soulless, especially for the ones that are pretty much aware and awakened, they see what is going on, they understand what is happening. Their whole vessel is completely blacked out, okay? You could see it in their eyes, you could see sometimes the things they do. But if a person who is even sensitive to energy, you can even feel that there's nothing in there. You're just dealing with an empty shell, okay? It's why sometimes you've heard me in some of my videos, I've told you that the narcissists are soulless. When you've been with them and you see all these things that they're doing, they're not making sense, you don't understand what is really happening, then eventually you understand what we're talking about. They are completely soulless, okay? Is why, because a person with a soul has got empathy. A person who has got a soul is how you know that a person doesn't have a soul. They don't have empathy, okay? The spirit inside of them is completely blacked out. They do not have complete empathy. They're not even conscious of what is going on around them. and they just know how to do the regular things, go from here to there. Maybe they do their job, they go home, they eat something, they go back to sleep and stuff like that. But they're soulless. They don't have, there is no conscious, there's no, so they're emotionally disconnected from their self. Okay. But I've also met people who are simply asleep. They're just asleep. So the people that are simply asleep, those are the people that they have a soul. Okay. They have a soul. But it feels like their lights are just turned off. Okay. By the way, this was a question that was asked by a subscriber, and they wanted me to talk about the difference. So there was just like their lights was switched off. The soul is there. They even have empathy. Every now and then you will interact with them and you will see they have got a conscious. You can speak with them. You can see they are normal human beings. You can relate with them. But from the deep inside, you know that there is something in there. There is a spirit in there, beautiful spirit. But it's just because they haven't been activated. So they are just not pretty much awakened to who they are and what exactly is really going on around them. So there's pretty much a difference when it comes to these things. Okay. Me personally, I've run across a lot of people. By the way, I'm hoping that this microphone is really. Maybe I should move it this side since I'm facing this direction. My videos sometimes they're like kind of, I do them like freestyle. I don't want to make it look so serious. So I've run across people over the years, and during my journey, and I've come to understand the difference between these people. There's ones that I really have seen that these are people, they are just walking zombies. They're just walking zombies, and I'm not saying this in a very destructive. Some of the times when you start speaking your truth and you start stepping into the truth, you will start to realize that you are more authentic and you do want to say things as they are. And sometimes because you are like hitting the points, it can turn out something like you're too harsh, or sometimes you have a lot of ego and stuff like that. But you're just saying things as they are. You're no longer in that energy of sugarcoating things because you want to tell people what they want to hear or things like that. You want to say it as it is, so that you can get the message out there. But the truth is, I've run across people, and I will know definitely there is nothing in there. You may see them sometimes they are talking to themselves. I've seen sometimes people, they're even fighting with themselves. Or sometimes you can run into a person and eventually you may see them, they are very, very irritated and they are disgusted by you and what it is that you are doing, even if sometimes you didn't even interact or even sometimes speak with them. They are just going to be completely disgusted by you, your presence. So those people eventually they are pretty much soulless. But a person who has a soul, you will run into them and they have a nice emotional interaction with you. You can share some nice things with them. Yes, they have their bad side. Everybody has got a dark side and stuff. But a person who has a soul, they do not let that dark side override them, okay? Overpower them. So they have a conscience to say, okay, this is enough. There is something they have been doing, probably they feel that is not the right thing to do. They can always push the stop button and they can go ahead with their lives. But a person without a soul, they're going to go all the way. It's like, for example, you guys have heard sometimes some of these narcissistic people, and they are the people that can set the house on fire with their family inside. You guys have heard about these stories online. It's just because that online normally they don't tell you that, oh, this is what is happening, this is narcissist or whatever. They don't tell you a lot of these details. But what is really going on is that these people, they are also capable. They can do something such as um, burn the whole house down with themselves and the family included. Or sometimes you've heard about cases whereby somebody, uh, they shot their family, the entire family, and they shot themselves as well. Okay, so those are the guys you know that they don't have a soul, because a person with a conscience does not do those kind of things. So is why sometimes you hear me talking about something like sleep empaths. You know, they are nice, beautiful, empathic people. You know, they have got a conscience, they have got a soul, but they're just shut down. Their light is like hasn't been activated. They are still in slumber state, I could say, in sleep mode. Out of us who has awakened, we know that we've been sleeping for quite a very good number of years. So that is what pretty much the difference when I'm talking about these things between soulless and the ones that are, there's a difference. So if you want to know a soulless being, it is not something you are going to see very easy, especially if you're not awakened. It is going to be very difficult for you to see, because soulless beings also move around like normal people. I've done a video before and I've told you guys that it's not everybody you see that is a human being, you know? Not everybody you see is a human being. There are some people you see them, they're just moving around, but they're not human beings. They're just probably visitors from different dimensions, or they're just the ones that are passing through, you know? If I'm saying when I'm saying passing through, I'm just calling them visitors. There's a video I did before and I told you these are visitors from different dimensions. And these are things that only a person that is spiritually active will understand. And you might even interact with them a little bit, one or two things with them. And then eventually they're going to go, they will be on their way. And you might even sometimes never see them again. And they are going to completely disappear to wherever they came from. Some of them, they are passing through their demons. So when a demonic entity attaches itself to an individual, it starts eating away and feeding off of that person's soul and essence, to the degree or extent whereby the person will become completely dumped down, to an extent whereby now these demons can use them to do whatever it is they want them to do. There are some narcissists, when you tell them things, there are some of the things you will see those people doing and you will imagine in your mind. You cannot be dealing with a healthy individual, and they are going to be doing things you cannot even fathom in your mind. You know what I mean? So you're going to experience them saying things you have never heard anywhere else. Sometimes you've heard about that voice when they have a change in their, in their tone of the voice, and you will really, really understand that you're not dealing with a human being. There's a different entity attached to that person that you're dealing with. So in other words, a demon could manifest, including the black eyes. You guys know about the black eyes. A demon can manifest in somebody, and the person who is much aware and awakened, they will understand that they are dealing with a different entity. It can be the voice that they will push out, or it can be something that you could see in a few seconds. Sometimes, you could see a person, their eyes could just turn black, and you will know that these people, they are completely dead spiritually. There's nothing in there. So that's how you know the difference between, when you want to know the difference between the soulless beings and the ones that are just asleep. They are just regular people, but they are just asleep. They are not activated. They are just walking around, uh, pretty much following the script. Okay, they're the ones who are following the script. They're just walking around following the script. But the ones who are a little bit more conscious, they are aware of this script, how it operates. So there's pretty much a difference. Okay, and when you're aware, I could say, when you become more conscious about who you are, and you start moving around a little bit and getting aware of things, they're going to start revealing themselves to you. Okay, and you are going to know the difference. So it's why sometimes you say a lot of times, you may decide to engage some people and you may decide not to engage some people, because when you already understand the entity that you're dealing with behind these people, you eventually know they are just walking vessels. They do not have a soul, and you do not want to interact with these people because you understand and overstand. When you do interact with these people, you are going to be interacting with something completely different. And because you are completely different, you are interacting with something that is completely different. You know that you do not have any business with that entities or entities that they're dealing with, and you know there's no conscience in there, so you do not have to interact. But when you do also meet people who have a soul, you will see that they are emotionally connected to their essence, to their true essence. So eventually, you know there is a soul in there. So when it comes to these things of spiritual matters, it's a little bit uh, complex a little bit, and the reason why they are complex is because not everybody understands them. There are sometimes when you say things and people they're like, "Oh, where is this guy getting these things from? Where? How do they know this? How do they know that? Something like that." But it's because you know, and when you know, you know. You cannot unknow some things, and you cannot unsee some things. When you know, it's just just the way it is. So you start to play this entire game more conscious. You start to become more conscious and to play the game in a much more conscious way. You know, you guys, what I'm saying. So for the one of the guys who asked that question, thank you for that question. It was a very powerful question, and I hope I may have made a few points in this. I have made a few points in this. Take what it is you want to take from it. Leave the rest, okay? Let us know what you think about the video, guys. You know I do love and appreciate your support. Please book a session. You may donate or support my channel if you want to. Everything you need, you will find it in the description below. And until then, I'll catch you guys in my next one. There's almost signing out. Much love and blessings. Peace.